I'd like to call the November 15, 2011 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask you to join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I will have a brief for me invocation, colleagues. Let's pray. God, thank you for our families, our friends, this community, this beautiful place that we live. Help us to appreciate and embrace all you've given us in such abundance. Bless our public servants and staff, the individuals that work tirelessly to do good things for our community and try to help people prosper and do better than they did before. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as a commissioner. This board rejoices in the opportunity that you've given us, and give us wisdom and help us to do the right things that would please you and please our community in a positive way. But this Thanksgiving season, most of all, help us to be grateful. You give us so much every day. Amen.
Amen.
In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Board, it's the duty of every board member to avoid both actual and apparent conflicts of interest. Does any board member know of any potential or actual conflict of interest on any matter that comes before the board today?
No, sir.
Then is there a motion to follow the agenda with the exception of pulling the resolution requesting the dedication of I-26 Bridge over Long Shoals as the Justice Harry C. Martin Bridge?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of following the agenda as we have it published it, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The agenda will be followed by a unanimous vote. Good news, we have Melinda Roberts and Kathy Howenstein to come tell us about the local food market. And we've got a nice handout from you. Thank you for that. And ladies, thanks for coming to talk to us today about local foods.
Thanks for having us today. We're pretty excited about local food here at Cooperative Extension. And we'd like to give you an update on the 10% campaign. It's in North Carolina, and it's a campaign where you're recording the local food that you're using and buying. So since it began in July 2010, it was a partnership with the Center for Environmental Farming Systems and Cooperative Extension and was funded by the Golden Leaf Fund. Across North Carolina, we have had 4,426 individuals register, 422 total business partners, and they have recorded spending $9,897,558. So that is spent on the foods that are produced locally in North Carolina. Since July 2010 through October 2011, Buncombe County alone has had 104 consumer members who have recorded spending $19,544, and that places us 11th in the state, and 13 participating businesses, which are at least 3 being local restaurants that had reported a consumed sum of $132,141. So we're moving along. Each month we do increase, and Melinda's going to share with you some ways that we can have more support locally or levels.
Gosh, I don't remember the last time I was here. I don't remember what month it was, but I had been assigned as the local food coordinator for Buncombe County, and since that time, Kathy has joined me in that movement because she works with the nutrition programs in the schools in Buncombe County. So together, we're trying to encourage and help people participate in the 10% campaign. So I had came here a while back, and Holly specifically asked me to come back with, I think it was November of last year, actually, asked me to come back with ways in which you as individuals as well as an organization or a a group of people could commit to the 10% campaign and buy in locally within Buncombe County. One thing I do want to state that with this particular campaign that SEFS has created, as well as Cooperative Extension, when we say local, we don't just mean Buncombe County. That 10% that you're spending could engulf anything that is from the entire state of North Carolina. So it could be shrimp that you purchase from the coast, or honey that you get from Madison County, or anything to fit into that 10%. So I wanted to come, and this packet has all the information in detail for you to take back and look at, and just to get a better clarification of the different levels of support that you can give as the commissioners or as Buncombe County. The first one, the levels of support that a business, organization, or institutional partners can commit to. You could do a pledge of purchase, which this information is in detail on the back of your handout. If you do a pledge of purchase, then a county can make the choices within the 10% campaign in mind when you're having foods at meetings or events. You don't have to make a year-long commitment to buy 10% of your food all year long. As the commissioners, you could vow to, at your commissioners' meetings or at your company retreats, to the food that's at those events could just be 10% local. And that's the way that you can commit to the campaign and those dollars be recorded. You can pledge the purchase of 10% of all foods for your meetings, like I just stated. You could pledge to purchase 10% of specific food from North Carolina sources, such as 10% of produce for meetings or events. You can pledge to use caterers who designate that they use local or NC foods in your businesses. And I'm not really supposed to acknowledge specific restaurants in our area that do that, but I think you all are aware of the ones that do. And they advertise the fact that they support local farmers. You can also support individual departments if they choose to purchase food from local or NC sources. And like the Cooperative Extension, we have quarterly advisory committee meetings, and so we've pledged as an organization to do 10% of our food for those meetings be local, which, I mean, we have perfect access to that, to those resources. Another way is an employee or member program. The county can encourage employees or participants of service to join the 10% campaign and sign up on the campaign website as individuals. And it goes into detail under number 2. And then the third one, which I'd like to recognize the fact that you already do this. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it could be recorded, promotion or outreach programs. And the one thing that comes to my mind is, I don't think it's still on the bus, but for several months I would pass one of the public transportation buses, and it has our local farmers all over the sides of it. And that's one way that you're doing that promotional outreach that could be recorded, as Buncombe County Commissioners supported that endeavor within our community or within our county. And I'm going to just real quickly, Holly wanted to know specifics on how we could fulfill that commitment as individuals. And it's during the winter months specifically, and we gave you resources to help you do that. And one thing that they do take into consideration is that you can incorporate value-added products into that commitment. You could do honey, eggs, local meats. There's tons of resources around here for people on an individual level as well as organizations to fulfill the commitment of buying 10%. And Kathy will go into a little more detail on that.
Often in my programming, I do get people asking, how can I do this individually? And so when I have a cooking class, I'll highlight which of those foods have been available locally. So one of the things that you can do, especially through the winter months, we do have one local resource, which is Winter Sun Farms. It is a CSA, that's a winter CSA. And so that's through the Blue Ridge Food Ventures. You can also choose to do those products which are available now. So Melinda did mention we have meats, we have honey, our winter vegetables. The Western North Carolina Regional Farmers Market on Brevard Road, often you will find a highlight there, as well as a local farmers row of retail, or wholesale down at the bottom. So you can look for that. ASAP has a great local guide that also gives you those types of items to choose from. And then if you do need it, the packet that we provided for you, we have that information in our office. So if you come across someone through your work you can always refer them to us for some of those suggestions. And then again, one of the other ideas during the Christmas time, if you're going and cutting down your own Christmas tree or choosing to visit one of the farms for that, you can always keep your eye out for other local products that they may have, because many of our farmers in their agritourism ventures are producing more products other than just the trees or what we're used to seeing. And then through the campaign, you can also count your homegrown food. So those who have taken the canning classes, they can count those foods through the winter. You don't want to count it both when you pick it and when you eat it, but you can make your choice when you want to count it. And then also just keep in mind that the whole year counts. So there may be some months you drop below 10%, but there may be months where you're up at 30 or 40% based on what's available. And so it's all beneficial when we record it, because then we can pass that information along. But we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Will you give us contact information, or give the folks here contact information for you, or where your office is located?
Yeah. Our office is downtown Asheville at 94 Cox Avenue, and you're welcome to call us. Our phone number is 828-255-5522, and you can reach us there. Also, we are on the website, and I have it right here. It's buncombe.ces.ncsu.edu. And so we can pass this along and have it on the county website as well.
And I might say, one of the good local food, these folks are heavily involved in what's called the Ag Breakfast, or the Farmer's Breakfast, once a quarter. And everything, and this is at the Virginia Boone Building at the Ag Center, and all the food there is locally grown. And I'm telling you, you walk in, but you roll out. It is wonderful. It's wonderful. And I think they go about 4:30 in the morning to start cooking, and it's just great. All local. I think I get my 10% that one breakfast. That's what I'm going to count anyway.
There's one more thing I wanted to add real quick. The campaign folks that are the program coordinators have developed a proclamation, if you guys are interested in reviewing that, that they've prepared for us to take to our county government.
Good. We'd like,
I can hand that
Yeah,
on
we
to
would.
you. Pass
We'd like-
that to you.
maybe we could cue that up for the next meeting. Let's look it over. I think that's great. What is our policy on buying local?
I don't know that we have a policy. We have a practice that we buy local when we can, but I don't think we have a policy on it yet.
I think it's good to look at a proclamation and formalize it. I know the sheriff and all the schools try to do that, but we probably want to formalize it, and it's hard to hit the goal if you don't know what the target is. So
Right.
I think that's great. One other thing, you've given us a list of the annual fruit. I noticed my son had this on his refrigerator, and they really do refer to this. Is this available in a magnetic version, or I guess you could work it out yourself? But this is the kind of thing that I know. My son lives in Raleigh. They really consult this, and they go to the farmers market there based on what's in season. So, is there such a thing, or is there?
North Carolina Department of Agriculture does have a in-season, and that might be the magnet.
It's
because
smaller.
I think
It
they
wasn't as
produced
big,
it
I
as a
know.
magnet, and it was like colored bars across, and it showed you what fruits and vegetables were produced throughout the year. This is pretty extensive because I think it also includes your meats and your other products as well. And
Yeah, fish and everything.
yeah. On the site itself, they do kind of have a page where you can get the months like November, December, January, February, I think they have. So it's a little bit bigger and easier to read. In my 40s now, I'm starting to take my glasses on and off to read.
Welcome to the club.
But we could also, that could be a marketing tool or something to think about as a
Okay.
way to support it, is to put that out.
Yeah, I really wanted to thank you for coming a year ago, because it really did impact me and change my behavior. I got my first little CSA this year. And these are great materials. I mean, one thing I wanted to also highlight is just how entrepreneurial our community is in this particular movement is. I mean, I've got my Christmas ideas now. I mean, this is fantastic how that can, because anyway, we can invest our dollars locally for gifts, and what's better than something that you can consume. And I did want to just echo the idea that we continue to work, walk this talk here, and we don't have a lot of like fancy meals together, but I know we probably will have a retreat in January, and it'd be great to have one of those little kind of do some effort for the local 10% and have a little plaque out.
I would love
So, yeah, there you go. There you go. We'll probably be calling on you.
Get tied into the farmers that have the products that you need. We've got those resources.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, this is so helpful.
Well, and Blue Ridge Food Ventures, the one that has the Winter Sun Farms and the Christmas ideas, I've bought those packages before and shipped them across the state, and they're phenomenal presents. And if Buncombe County was not here, Blue Ridge Food Ventures wouldn't be here. So
Yeah.
that's an organization that y'all supported a long time
Yes.
ago.
Great.
So thank you.
I have two more questions. One of them, would you just, and Commissioner Jones mentioned this, would you explain, I think everybody up here knows what CSA is, but if you could tell us how that works and maybe where people could find that information.
CSA is it stands or an acronym for Community Supported Agriculture, and several of the small farms or direct sell farms in our area and all across the country, for that matter, they create a opportunity for individuals to buy into their farm, and they pay up front for vegetables that they're going to receive throughout a certain year or a certain time frame throughout the year. So they're paying for their food in advance, and it's a risk on the person that's paying for it because sometimes we do have crop failure, but there's usually things in abundance that you will get instead. If one crop fails, another will usually flourish. But it's really beneficial for the farmers because they get the money up front, so it allows them to have the money to purchase seeds and amendments and fertilizers and pay help in advance, and then they deliver or set up pickup sites for the person that's purchased the CSA box to once a week you get this beautiful abundance of vegetables and they always, most of the farmers that I work with offer recipes and cooking ideas for the vegetables that you get, especially if they're out of the norm. So, and those usually are being sold at the beginning of the year if anybody wants to look up.
It really is. Our families use that, and that is a wonderful way to get fresh food.
It is
And
nice.
and I don't think anybody I've ever talked to that did it felt like they were gypped. They didn't get enough stuff. I think you get more than
you
you
can eat.
put in. Yeah, big time.
And there's starting to be brokers and people that will combine multi-farms, so you get a more diverse CSA box where you can get meats and eggs and breads and vegetables. There's several areas several folks that are starting to do that as well. But the going directly to the farmer is very beneficial to them and impacts them in a very positive way.
And I guess I would just add that Winter Sun one that we were just talking about, that has products that they've frozen or also winter products. So they may have some frozen vegetables from earlier in the season and some of the other products. So.
Well, it's Blue Ridge Food Ventures does the Winter Sun Farms, and they contract growers, local growers, mainly in Buncombe County, to grow those vegetables for them, and they deliver them to Blue Ridge Food Ventures. And then because of the facility that they have, it's a commercialized kitchen, they process the food on site and they freeze it and store it for the winter, and then they put it in the Winter Sun Farm CSA for people.
That's brilliant.
They get the seafood too?
No, they
Folks?
don't.
They don't
No,
get
sir.
seafood up here?
No, but boy,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be nice if they did. No, sir, they don't.
Need to work that out.
Somebody needs to get
Some
on
of
it.
them
But
already
actually,
have 'em.
the
Some of
Black
them-
Mountain Market, the Becky James is a specific farmer that does. She goes and gets seafood and brings it up to the Black Mountain Market, North Carolina.
Good.
grown
Good.
And
seafood.
some of the other tailgates.
Yes, some of the others as well.
Well, our policy is always to get local. I know that anytime we have things, Kathy and everybody who buys, we look local first, and we'd love to see the proclamation. Anything we can do to publicize what you're doing, it's a priority of this board to encourage farming and to preserve farmland and to make sure that farmers make money. And this is good for everybody. It's a win-win for us all.
We'll come to the breakfast next time.
Oh,
I'll call you.
okay.
We appreciate
Yeah.
the support because our programming goes into this, and so the support from you helps us do what we can do for them as well.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Wonderful
Thank you,
report.
thank you.
Next up, we have I think we do not have a county manager report, but we do have Dr. Hank Dunn and AB Tech. I'll recognize you if you want to make any quick comment. We're glad to have you. I know you've been busy the last couple of weeks, last year actually, so thank you. Dr. Dunn?
We were here just to say thank you to the commissioners for allowing the vote to go on the ballot, and it's certainly a little closer than we ever thought it was going to be. We appreciate the support of the community. I think when they see the community with the commissioners and the AV Tech coming together and doing what we said we were, they'll be very pleased with the result.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand that the recount today gave us a few extra votes on the thing.
Over 500 today.
Yeah. But I need to ask an expert from Madison County something about farming.
Oh, gosh.
David, there's a section, the Spinning Spider Milk and Goat Farm in Madison County. It's in a section of your beautiful county. It's kind of like an exotic place, but I can't think of the name of it. It's called, I want to say something like Paris or something. No, it's got the community. And it's 9. I had to follow a UPS truck to find this place, but the name of the community it sounds like a resort. I bet it isn't, but it's well, I thought, well, I'll get it. I'll find out where it is. I can't remember that. Okay, all right, but it's a Spinning Spider Farm is what it is. They make the finest goat cheese I've ever put in my mouth.
That's fantastic.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Good deal.
Good. Thank you, Dave. And
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Dunn.
Find out for them right now.
Next up, we have a resolution requesting the North Carolina Department of Transportation dedicate the I-26 bridge over Long Shoals Road, which is NC Highway 146, as the Justice Harry C. Martin Bridge. Let's see if I can.
Here it is.
Oh, thank you. You wanna read it?
No, you go.
I'll be proud to read.
Okay.
Let Bill.
Okay.
Let me read.
Vice Chair Stanley, let me get you to read that into the
Okay.
record. And
All right. Resolution requesting the North Carolina Board of Transportation to dedicate the I-26 bridge over Long Shoals Road, North Carolina Highway 146, as the Justice Harry C. Martin Bridge. Whereas Harry C. Martin was raised in Lenore County, graduated from the University of Chapel Hill, served in World War II, earned his law degree from Harvard Law School before coming to Buncombe County as a private practice attorney in 1948. Harry C. Martin was appointed Superior Court Judge in Buncombe County by Governor Terry Sanford in 1962, reappointed by Governor Dan K. Moore, and selected by the people. And whereas Judge Harry C. Martin was known as an innovator and implemented the firecracker or one-day, one-case jury system still in use in Buncombe County and other districts to this day. Judge Harry C. Martin was appointed by Governor James B. Hutt, Jr. as an Associate Justice to the Supreme Court of North Carolina in 1982. He served there until he retired in 1992. Justice Harry C. Martin returned to private practice until becoming the Chief Circuit Mediator for the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit from 1994 to 1999, during which time he designed and implemented the appellate mediation program for the Fourth Circuit. You get on up here, that thing's long. But he was great and did a lot of things. Whereas Judge Harry C. Martin became the Chief Justice of the Cherokee Supreme Court of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians in 2000, supervised the creation of the new tribal court system on the Qualla Indian boundary in western North Carolina, and established the Cherokee Court as a leader among the Indian nations. When he retired in 2006, he was made an honorary member of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians. Whereas through his extensive career, Justice Harry C. Martin has brought honor to this county, has improved every area of the justice system that he has tirelessly served, and deserves to have the I-26 bridge over Long Shoals Road named in his honor, as it was one he traveled many, many times during his work across the state. Now, for be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows, and I hit it too hard. Come back here. That this board hereby requests the North Carolina Department of Transportation to dedicate the bridge on Interstate 26 that crosses North Carolina Highway 146, known as Long Shoals Road, as the Justice Harry C. Martin Bridge. That this resolution be approved upon its adoption. Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of this resolution.
Second.
It's been a motion by Vice Chair Stanley, a second by Commissioner Peterson. Is there any discussion? There's not a man in Buncombe County that deserves this more than he. He really has done every judicial office you can hold in our state. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We have adopted the resolution 5-0. Next up, we have Greg Israel is going to give us an update on the county's carbon footprint and sustainability plan. Mr. Greg Israel, thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, it said on the agenda Buncombe Green Review, and I kind of wanted to say something like backed by popular demand. But I
Greg,
didn't get
if
anywhere
you'll
with
pardon
that.
me, we're going to hear this again, and it's worth hearing again. But we had two commissioners that were not here, and we felt like they ought to hear this also. And we want you to do it again.
I'm
really
glad to share
appreciate
good
it.
news anytime I
Thank
can.
you.
Okay, Judy, whenever you're ready. Okay, this is the carbon footprint and energy report and energy use report for 2010. The emission scope here, what we use to put this report together, the consumption of our electrical energy, our heating fuel, motor fuels, our water consumption, and our employee commute. And the emissions is what the byproduct is of us doing business, what we leave behind us. To start out with some good news, how do we compare across the nation and locally? The national average is 90,500 BTUs per square foot for, and you're averaging in office space, gymnasiums, everything when you do that. So a national average at 90,500. University of Wisconsin did a study, and they're emitting 50 pounds of ECO2 per square foot in their facilities. Buncombe County currently is at 64,862 BTUs per square foot. So we're 25,000 less per square foot than the national average. We're at 38 pounds of ECO2 per square foot. So we're at a 20% reduction from our 2005 baseline figures. On the carbon emissions, we had a total of 26,096 metric tons of ECO2 that we emitted in 2010. And the ECO2 part, when we came to you before, we used to have a list of gases that we gave you. We had carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. Well, thankfully somebody come up with an equivalent CO2, so it's all rolled into one number now. Buildings accounts for 60% of that. Employee commute, 18%. Our fleet is 17% of that number, and off-road emissions, 3.4%. Our carbon emissions trend, you can look back over the years, and you see that the blue line always climbs. Well, anytime we add a facility, the line climbs. Anytime we complete an energy efficiency project, the line will dip, or if we sell a facility. So construction and occupied space like we're doing right now, you'll see a rise in the line and then it'll settle out because two things are going on at one time where you normally just have one function. Total energy consumption for 2010 is 176.4 billion BTUs. That's a big number, but we're still well below the national average when you look at the number of square feet that we have. And I always say this, but I just never assume everybody knows what we're talking about. BTUs is British Thermal Unit. It's a value. It's the way we value a product. You know, gasoline has so many BTUs in it, propane like that. So it's all converted to a usable number. Energy usage factor. What's the factor that drives this blue line up? So in 2006, we had 1.1 million square feet. And in 2010, we're currently at 1.5 million square feet of building space. The 200 College Street building was 54,000 feet. The detention center addition, the College Street parking deck, all those things, anytime that we have to add space to meet the needs of our citizens, the blue line is going to climb. Our employee commute, this was from a survey It's really about a year and a half old, I think, but we brought it forward with our current number of employees. 92.6% of our county employees do drive to work with an average round trip of 27 miles. So we logged almost 11 million miles on county employees back and forth to work last year, and that makes up 18% of our annual carbon footprint, which is equivalent to 4,800 megatons of ECO2, or metric tons, I'm sorry. Buildings, like I said, we currently have over 1.5 million square feet controlled by Buncombe County, which is 99.7 billion BTUs of energy in 2010. Buildings are responsible for 60%, or 15,853 metric tons of ECO2. The total energy cost for Buncombe County for 2010 was $1.6 million. Energy intensity, and this is where we start getting into the good news again. And this is a new buzzword that is going around in green circles. The intensity is intense is existing on extreme degrees. So they measure intensity of buildings that way. Our blue line is headed down now, so we're going in a good direction. We have on the intensity side, we're building calmer buildings. We've been in a steady decrease since 2006. So that's good news. Our energy cost per square foot is also in a downward trend. We were at $1.32 per square foot in 2006, and we've got it down to an average of $1.09 per square foot. That's all of your electricity, all your heating fuels that go into to the buildings. This is a new slide from the last time, and so I hadn't actually seen it up there yet. But your red line is the square footage of a building. So on the left-hand side, we show the parking deck, which has got 261,000 square feet. And the blue line is the BTUs per square foot. So you can see how little energy that building uses. The detention center right beside it, the blue line still doesn't pass the red line. So, the square footage is up there. It's in a normal range. The library, our BTUs per square foot is now past our square footage line. The library is kind of an intense building. You've got a lot of lighting in a library. You've got a lot of HVAC. You've got to create an environment that encourages people to read, and it's got to be well lit. Our most energy intense building is the animal shelter. You can see how far that blue line is projected past the red. We've got a lot of stringent guidelines on air exchange for animals that are kept contained. Temperatures we have to keep them at. So it's an expensive building to operate. But you take all those together and all the rest of our buildings, and we still come out at $1.09 per square foot. So what we have to do here by state mandates and just by good practices, we tend to make up on our other buildings. There again, we've got the just another slide for comparison here. This is the cost per square foot. And your red line is still your square footage line. Parking deck is 10 cents a square foot, all the way up to $2.73 a square foot on your animal shelter. So it's just it's a huge difference. It's all about whatever your building you're doing. This goes back and takes in the county as a whole. The blue line is a baseline from 2005. Our actual BTUs in 2005, I've carried it all the way across. So you can see that steady decrease, that stair step down in that red line. So it's never going to go away, but as long as it keeps stepping down, we're doing things right. The results, this is a good slide, the results of our efforts. If we haven't done anything to decrease our BTUs per square foot and our cost per square foot, this year we would have spent $2.4 million on utility costs, but our actual was $1.6 million.
It's incredible. A lot of change.
Yeah.
It's great.
Building emissions, and this goes back to usage per square foot, so we're going to see the blue line go back up again. We used 15,853 metric tons, or that was our emissions in 2010. We've still been on a downward trend. And even though we've added over 400,000 square feet of space, that number should have risen by 7,000 metric tons of ECO2, but it's only risen by 1,700 pounds. So there again, you see it more in the cost, it's cheaper, but we're also keeping those that ECO2 emissions down as well. Water consumption, something we've not had up here before that was asked for. In 2010, we consumed 33,900,000 gallons of water in Buncombe County. Contributors to this, you're seeing it rising on in when we add facilities. The water usage goes up. If we have, we had to leak at a pool there for a while. It ran underground, and it just took us forever to find it. Then the conservation efforts bring it down. We fix leaks. We add a building, it spikes back up a little bit.
Mhm. Greg, do we count the schools in this number? This is just, okay.
This is just county government buildings.
Okay.
Fleet details for 2010, total miles traveled, 6,500,000. Total fuel consumed, 500,000 gallons. And that's a combination of all fuels that we use in vehicles for a total cost of $1.1 million. And the fleet contributed 4,500 metric tons of ECO2, or 17.4% of our total carbon footprint. Fleet size, as you can see, the reason this is in here is just to show how that we've not grown that big since 2006. Some departments we've added to, but when we've found ways to combine services in other departments, and that's lowered the fleet size. So it's really kind of stayed in there. You know, within 6 vehicles is a pretty good number for the kind of growth that we've had in other places. Number of vehicles by department. Sheriff's Department, Emergency Management, and Mountain Mobility are our biggest users of the fleet. Total fleet mileage. I'm also well past 40, so I need to find the one I can read down here. We had a total of 6.5 million miles traveled in 2010, and you can see the steady decrease on miles traveled. There again, that's combined trips. That's just doing things smarter than we've done in the past. The fuel usage history. Gasoline, you can see, this is where you get to 500,000 gallons when you combine the blue and the red lines. Diesel is climbing. We're using more diesel vehicles. And gasoline is staying pretty much the same. Alternative fuel use. The blue line is biodiesel. And I showed you how our diesel use was increasing. The newer vehicles with the new federal mandates on emissions, and just as computerized as these engines are nowadays, they're not running on biodiesel like we used to be able to. You know, when it was a 78 model Ford tractor that hauled the trash to the landfill, it was different. But these new trucks, we're finding we have to run that ultra low sulfur diesel in them, which or we spend more money on maintenance than we do anything else. The thing about this one I want to bring out is the little green dot at the end. We hope to see that one grow. That's our propane vehicles that we're starting to pick up. So we're wanting to increase that as the others. We're hoping to see them fall back.
What was it? What's E10?
E10 is gasoline, 10% ethanol gasoline.
Oh, okay, right.
So that's what we're running on everything now pretty much. And on the fleet fuel mileage, when I was here last, I gave an explanation which still stands, but I think I've figured out something also on this. We've seen a drop in our mileage. This one we would want to see going up. We're at 13.1 miles per gallon where we were at 13.7. But the propane vehicles, and they're not going to make up this whole number, propane has less BTU content than gasoline, which means we're not going to get as many miles per gallon, although it's a much cheaper fuel and it's better on the environment. We're going to see our fuel mileage drop by gallon, even though we're actually got a better deal because it's cheaper fuel and the emissions are less. The other variable on this, the only thing I can figure out is we had a very harsh summer and a harsh winter here. So we had more air conditioning and more heat running to keep our people that work out of these vehicles cool or warm.
Mm-hmm.
Other direct emissions is our fuel for off-road use at 900 metric tons of ECO2, and that's landfill, grounds maintenance, and our diesel-powered generators. Off-road use, which is landfill fuels. There again, biofuel is becoming non-existent. Gasoline and diesel are rising, and it's simply because we've not found you can burn biofuel, but by the time you buy the additives to burn it to make it clean enough to burn, you've kind of defeated the purpose of burning the biofuel, and it just becomes expensive for us to do that. Emissions reduction projects. I was asked to look at past projects and see if I could come up with some percentages on them. And due to our utility bills, we've seen a 16.5% reduction at the courthouse since we added the new windows. That translates to a $32,000 annual cost avoidance at the courthouse. 35 Woodfin, 12%, and a $42,000 cost avoidance. The reason 35 Woodfin, you would think that, you know, a smaller building, less money, but that thing was built when energy was cheap, and there wasn't a bit of insulation in that building, and the windows were single paned, you know, and there just wasn't nothing right about it. So we're looking for a better, much better return on that building. We did an HVAC renovation at the Allport building, and we're already seeing 18% back on it just by purchasing and using it. And HVAC at Allport was done from an ECBG block grant. So we're getting some of that energy efficient equipment on board with that. Future projects, which really should say current projects now, 40 Cox, we're almost 2/3 of the way through that total renovation of that building. We have a solar thermal installation there and also electric vehicle charging stations at that facility. Alternative fuel vehicles, just recently got the paperwork back on the grant. We had asked for 15 vehicles. We received 10. So we'll be doing 10 of the Crown Vics for the sheriff and converting them to propane fuel.
Isn't that great?
And our projected annual cost savings for that project for the propane vehicles is $25,000 to $35,000. And of course, the new courts building, which will be a LEED certified building. So back to the first slide, how do we compare? 90,500 BTUs is a square foot average, and we're at 64,000 BTUs per square foot. The second number, and I always want to be upfront about this, so if anybody stops you on the street, if you took the parking deck out of there, you know how I showed you the parking deck had a huge square footage to it, but very little energy usage? Okay, you take that out of the mix, we're at 77,000 BTUs per square foot. We're still well below the national average on what we do. But that's just stuff you need to not get blindsided with.
Thanks, Greg.
How do we fund efficiency? We fund it through capital project budgets. We fund some projects through my department. If we can look from the first of the year to the end of the year, see a payback, I'll spend the money directly out of my departmental budget and do it that way. Energy Savings Reinvestment Fund. We get a lot of utility rebate money on that. We go after that stuff. Anytime, and that's part of what we figure in if I can do it out of my department. If I can change all these lights in this room and I get a Progress Energy rebate, plus the utility cost goes down, and it pays for itself in a short amount of time, I can do it within my own budget, and I'm recouping that money all the time I'm doing it. The other thing we do is we take 75% of all avoided utility costs that are in this Energy Savings Reinvestment Fund, and we put it back into the fund to fund future projects. And I think we're somewhere around $80,000 in that fund right now. The way forward, we're just going to continue on this course that we've been doing of improving efficiency through routine maintenance. One thing that's really seemed to pay off is we analyze purchases based on the total life cycle of the equipment, not just on the purchase price. And the design of future buildings as efficiently as possible, with the new courts building being one of them. And the grants, the leveraging all the grants and efficiency programs. And right now, finance is helping me on all that with my grants and collecting my data for me. So I very much appreciate that. So that was even a more hurried presentation than last time, but everybody's seen it once. So.
Fantastic.
Would you have any questions?
There are not many things that I want to hear a second time, but that was well worth it.
Worth it.
It was
Thank you, sir.
fantastic.
And Greg, on the jail, there a long-term plan to put solar on there when the roof's replaced? Is that right?
There is, when we redo the roof, that is one of the options that we have. The best place on the jail is on the high roof. Now, the problem is, looking at the cost of that, we've got to pass through all those occupied dorms to get to the bottom of that thing to make this work, because the sun we need's on top, the boilers we want to add to are on the bottom. So when we do the engineering for the new roof, that will be looked at. And I'll come back to you with a life cycle cost of, to put this in, here's what it's going to cost us, and here's when it's going to pay back.
Right on.
And then we'll make a decision of, yes, that's where we want to go, or we want to put that money into another project that pays off faster.
Good.
This is a great presentation, and I really appreciate y'all doing it again. It's great. Two quick things, and incidentally, I've shared some of this data out in the community. The community settings that I was a part of were really impressed with the due
Very good.
diligence and kind of the people that think about this stuff. They're like, really? That's the BTU average? So two quick things. One is, and when we had a little tour at the animal shelter, I think I asked some of this, but I've already forgotten the answers. But are there possibilities? 'Cause I'm assuming part of that is hot water that needs out there. Is there the ability in the future for some solar thermal
Well,
out
looked
there?
at that out there, but I'd be very willing to look at that. The animal shelter, just like the jail and the kitchen, you've got to supply a certain degree of water to them for it to be legal to wash the food bowls, to wash down pits and things like that. While we couldn't provide all that with solar, we probably could pick up some of the heat, recover some of the heat through a solar project.
Yeah. That might be worth looking at,
Might be.
given how that's so big. So I think some great new technology out there, that'd be great to know. The other thing is, too, and I think this is such a harder nut to crack, but I'd be curious if there's been some kind of brainstorming, because it's definitely a long-term thinking thing, is that, obviously, employee mileage is just hard to figure out. But have we begun to think about some of best practices to try to?
We've looked, and we worked with the city one time on a shared ride program. We just couldn't get a whole lot of interest out of it.
Just harder, yeah.
We've talked to people about carpooling and commuting, and so people do so much stuff. The thing we always found out was, if I could get to my car at lunch, I'd be very happy to park it wherever you wanted it, or to try to share a ride. But so many people do so much of their daily business during their lunch hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to break them from giving up their car.
Right. Yeah, right. It's definitely a tough nut to crack.
It bears looking at. I'm sure there's a solution, but we've not
Yeah.
found it yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions
Thank you,
for
sir.
Greg?
Thank you.
Good
Greg.
job again.
Wonderful.
Wonderful report. And I like the balance of looking at the cost benefit, long-term and short-term, because sometimes I think we've heard of communities that jump in when it's new technology, or it doesn't pay off, and we gotta be accountable to the taxpayers. Next up, we have board appointments. In our pre-session, I think we have elected by consensus to appoint the planning board next meeting, which would be December 6th. Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, are there any reappointments for that?
Mr. Chairman, I move we reappoint Don Dybert, Mary Adami, Marjorie Latta, Karen O'Schlager, Bob Phillips, and Kathleen Tate.
Okay, are there any other nominations? All those in favor of the reappointments as articulated by Vice Chair Stanley, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then those individuals are reappointed. Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, 9 vacancies.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Adam Banner, Ben Wax, Mary Israel, Lorraine Webster, Angela Jones, Lisa Patt, Mary Euler, Andrea Block, Brendan Mullen.
All right.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Vice Chair Stanley. Any other nominations? All those in favor of those individuals to be reappointed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Those individuals are reappointed. Mountain Area Workforce Development Board, 2 vacancies.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Catherine Clausen and Jess Krasinski.
All right. The Commissioner Bailey has nominated 2 individuals for the 2 vacancies. Are there any other nominations? All those in favor of Ms. Clausen and Ms. Krasinski, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then those ladies are appointed to that board. The announcements are the next regular meeting of the board will be held December 6, 2011, beginning at 4:30. County offices will be closed November 24 and 25 for Thanksgiving. Commissioner meetings can be seen on BCTV Charter Cable Channel 2, ATT Uverse Channel 99, live on buncombecounty.org during the meetings, or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. Next up, we have public comment. Mr. Frew, no closed session tonight, I
No,
think.
sir, not today.
Thank you. Okay. The official business of the county is concluded, and we will now hold public comment. The time limit for any comment before the board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you may leave any questions along with your name, address, and phone number with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on any matters during public comment, since it is by definition the public commenting to us. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of our commission or pertinent to any matters which it may act upon. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address the entire board. Any polling of board members is inappropriate and will not be permitted. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and be respectful of everyone in the room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting, and our board reserves the right to deny public addresses on a subject that we've already covered or has been previously presented to the board. Based on those rules, public comment. Any public comment tonight? Mr. Fryer?
Mr. Gann, I'm asking for 10 minutes. I've got 8 hands.
I'll show of hands of everyone who wants to give up their time. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, you will not be permitted to speak if you want to reserve your time, pass your time. Okay. I counted the requisite number. Go ahead, Mr. Fryer. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Clock's working, too. First thing I got to say is, Mr. Stanley, Mr. Rice, I'm glad to see you're going with No Shave November. I look a little scruffy, but this is National Prostate Month, and the gentlemen are supposed to be growing mustaches. Well, I had one of them, so I decided to grow this. After that, I have presented Mr. DeGant, the attorney, with some paperwork that I would like to have brought forward. But this referendum on AB Tech, which is over, basically won. Simple fact is, it's less than 1%. When we had zoning voting, it was 10%. And this board decided that, well, there wasn't enough people voted in that election that they thought that the county should go ahead and zone. Well, there's less voted. Did I do something wrong?
No, we didn't do that either.
Get your time back. Go ahead. We'll read. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
The zoning vote, there was like 37,000, and it's 55 to 45. There's 33,000 in this one, and it was 50 3/4 versus 49 3/4. I don't call it a great win because there's a lot of money spent. I called the other day and asked a question to the attorney about 100 Maple Building. I have information in a folder that was sent to students through their student account to come and work at the Maple Building, come put out signs, come and canvass, come and make phone calls. well, if we need rooms at AB Tech for students, how come we're not using that one? The answer I got was, well, that room was leased to Advantage West. Well, I got a hold of the Advantage West people. They said, no, they leased property over in AB Tech at Inca. So I couldn't get an answer, and I was asked to bring paperwork in to ask for it, which is the General Statute 131-1. So I have. These questions I would like to have answered. Referendums, Mr. Gant, we went through that on district elections, and I asked one thing, and Ms. Jones was there. Please let us have a referendum, and asked Mr. Moffitt to, pull the bill. And the words was, no, North Carolina's not a referendum state. If you want a referendum, you need to go to Portland or Seattle. So if I'm wrong on my words, stop me, sir. But that's the words that I heard. We had a referendum. It's 502 votes after the count. This should be, it was put in a county election. Mr. Dunn was good enough to talk to me. I asked why we didn't have any early voting places. At least 4 in the county, because I went and looked at all the mappage. I know that my district, or where I vote at, there was 3 people voted early. Well, 2 of those, one's me and one's my wife. But if we'd use Fairview Library, use something toward Black Mountain and Leicester, those people all the way out there, there was absolutely 0 people early voted in Leicester. 0. A lot of people didn't know about it. I still got people in my neighborhood said, well, I thought it was a city election. So they didn't vote. I had one guy say, well, I looked at the ballot, but I couldn't vote for them people, so I didn't vote. And I said, you saw the wrong ballot. He did some furnace work for me. So in the whole thing, they did a good job. These people did a very good job putting it out, and they spent a whole lot of money. But I don't know if it's legal for AB Tech, the personnel, to give an outsider all of the students' email addresses. And there was a person working for the outside source, Jobs Solutions for Jobs, that was emailing from a Gmail address, his name, to all the AB Tech students' addresses. So that is pushing the issue a little bit far. When you take the students, I live in the county, and there's very few people in the county, a few Democrats, a couple of other people. This is like 4 out of 7 cards. I never received one. I don't know of any person in my party in Buncombe County that got a robocall or a card. Now, there's people in this room that are from the other party that these came from that got robocalls from you or sheriff. If we want to play a fair game, the people in the county, this is a county election, supposedly. Party shouldn't have mattered. This is the education. We all pay into this institution, no matter what party. But Dr. Dunn came and spoke to us at an event, and he passed about 100 of these out. That is a press release. That was paid for by AB Tech. And I spoke once before, and I asked Dr. Dunn, and he could verify this. This card saying vote for AB Tech was handed to all the students in all the classes. That is not, you can call things teaching, but that's not what I call teaching. That is telling people this is what you need to do, and then take it home to your parents and tell them to vote for it. So in this election, if you look at it, early voting won it by a very small margin, and many hundreds of thousands of dollars. versus what the gentleman that put stop forward, about $3,000. I would just like to know how, all the information, you have it, I just gave it to you, sir, and you, sir, and you, ma'am. There's a couple of questions that I need to ask. I won't go there, but it's part of the foundation, and I'll probably have to put that in written form too. But a lot of people in Buncombe County is mad. We don't want to call this ATEC. We want to call it ABTEC. It's called Asheville Buncombe Technical Institution. And the way this was done, it's ATEC. And David, I understand you were happy the other night because this won. I've seen the picture. But for a person that don't like referendums, at all, that miles just bothered me. And we are friends, I hope. But my wife don't agree with me, and I'm sure a bunch of yous up there don't. But the people here from AB Tech, I appreciate what they do. I appreciate them teaching our students. But I've never seen a building teach a kid. The building that I went to school in Morristown, Tennessee, the grade school, and I left it in 1958 when my dad died. It's still being used today. It's called Hillcrest Elementary School. The old high school is still being utilized in Morristown. They do have other schools, but these schools are still being utilized. We have AB Tech campus, not AB Tech campus, but the Inca campus for AB Tech. Saw a bunch of highway patrol cars out there today. They must be doing some kind of class for them. But do we need $130 million and tell our people, this is for 17 years. You have your baby today, and they're still going to be paying for it when they're 17 years old and able to go to AB Tech. I understand they want things. I understand a lot of these people sitting in this room took time off and worked the polls. Dr. Dunn utilizes our services, our vehicles, and everything to go out to promote this. It was an election that supposedly was a referendum. There's people that I've heard from the school that were part of different things that do not like what happened here. I know Dr. Dunn and them, they like what happened, but this should be put on hold until the people of Buncombe County can speak. 175,000 people in Buncombe County, 33,000 votes. I've asked the I've spoke to the State Board of Elections. I've spoke to the attorney at the State Board of Elections. He says, I have to come to y'all. And I have. Mr. Frew, I'm here. I am here. I'm asking questions because this was bought with our money. TV time was bought with our money to promote basically jobs through companies and people that bring people. So my time's up, and I thank you very much for it.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Any other public comment? Anybody that didn't raise their hand? All right.
I am Reverend Lisa Landis, and I know that I stand up here a lot, but I would hope that I would have a little bit of respect that you guys would at least listen to what I say. But since I know that that's kind of pushing it, I'm going to talk about free speech and our rights to come up here, because it's like we the people want to speak. I don't know if you have noticed news lately, but we don't just want to speak. We want to gather peaceably. We used to have a place that we could gather peaceably in order to communicate with the rest of our community, but even though between the city and the county records show that there was received $3 million for video sales tax and PEG revenues, we couldn't seem to get $200,000 for the people's voice. We don't seem to be able to get our voices heard by our government. And I think that our government is supposed to be respecting our constitutional rights, and that is for our free speech. And that is so that we can assemble peaceably, and that is so that we can hold our government accountable for their wrongdoings. We, the people, have been talking about that quite a lot, and we see it starting to hit national media. So it might be national media that really brings the corruption to light. It's been said education, law enforcement, and course services are important to this county. And it's like, what information could the people have that is so important that you want to deny our voices in order to communicate the information that we have? I wonder about that. 1.5 million square feet that you guys have, that's a lot of square footage. Why couldn't the people have a little portion of that in order to peaceably assemble, in order to communicate with each other? And then it's like the animal shelter. I am so happy that the animals are warm and dry and fed. Why couldn't we do that for people? Why do we spend more money making our greenways beautiful for somebody to look out that, oh, gee whiz, they don't have to look on the homeless that are laying on the sidewalks, the homeless that get fines for peeing and urinating and defecating in the streets because there is no restroom. There is no public restroom for the people. How can there be a law against these things if there is no other option available? The charity that people give, it's not for the pat on the back. It's not for the plaque on the wall. Service is good for the soul. Service is serving the people. And I really have to question why people are in office if they are not here to serve the people.
Thank you, Ms. Landis. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Milton Bird. This issue, I'm going to pick up a point Ms. Landis had just said about freedom of speech. And quite often it is a challenge to sit here and listen to how people's perceptions can come from so many directions, and you try to keep up with them. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you can't follow them, because sometimes you just can't. It happens. It's called humanity. It's the human event. But there is something going on with this occupation movement that's going on all over the country that is, in effect, right here, very important. It's called public trust. And I want to focus on that tonight because that's something this commission and every local governance has got to pay attention to because it's part of your responsibility, the public trust. It is the very foundation of your authority as representation of we the people. The issue of public trust is what created this country and its governance. Yet we've seen so much of it eroded because of the trappings of bureaucracy, the mistakes of leadership done from so many different directions of, well, let's just call it abuse, because mistakes are there and abuse is there. When do we change? When do we redirect our focus into rebuilding public trust so that we have the people empowered to create the force that will change this country where it can thrive again? Because it's going to be we, the people, that will do it. I don't care how much effective and efficient bureaucracy you create. If it's not in the framework of public trust, it will not be suitable. It will not be sustainable, and it will not be supportable because we, the people, create that support. It is for their, meaning the people, sustainability, because if we can't be sustainable, then the whole tower of bureaucracy collapses. Humanity is built upon people. Governance is there for people. Public trust. I want to challenge you for this coming year where we're going to have economic challenges that are going to be taking us down some very slippery slopes to build public trust. I know this podium is one thing that represents public trust of the people. You know, you talk about the freedom of speech. You talk about the right to assemble, the right to gather, the freedom of press. All the things the General Assembly process back in the 1700s brought this country about to be. And right now there's a General Assembly process going on around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Byrd. Any other public comment tonight? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You know, each meeting I've come to here recently, within the last 6 months, it seems, Mr. Chairman, you and the board, and whoever's advising you, politically or non-politically, it seems that the noose is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And I remember the story about my grandfather in Madison County telling the story about going to the last hanging that they had on the square. He came back to the house a changed man. He never went to another one because he didn't have one. This story is to remind you of the Constitution and the freedom of speech and how politically the newspapers and the media are being influenced by you politicians and you political people and people that are agency people, people that are controlling the media, and the media is sucking it up because of the money. It's evil. It's worse than evil. We need a democracy that will listen to the people. I had a brother that died in World War II, 19 years old. I can still remember the prayers at dinner as Mother and Dad talked about it years after in World War II. And I know that Mr. Stanley served in the war. But let me tell you, the freedom that they fought and died for, I'm standing here today witnessing it firsthand from politicians being taken away. And let me tell you, it hurts me to my heart because it feels like the day that Dad and Mother sat at the table and talked about how they had lost their son and what he gave his life for. I think sometimes your heart gets hardened because of what you hear. You need to soften it up. You need to understand we're human beings standing at this podium, and we need that peace and satisfaction to be able to express to our representative and to our statesmen and not to a bunch of politicians. We need statesmen and stateswomen. We need people that are listening, not people that are sitting there and doing as you please and then leave and do whatever you like. My questions that I asked for from the referendum, questions to AB Tech, I have not got a call, I've got an email or anything from the president of AB Tech. So I just want to let you know it's still going to be asked again.
All right, Mr. Rice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other public comment tonight?
Move adjournment.
There's been a motion to adjourn, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We're adjourned.